All right, so we're going to kick off now. We're running a few minutes behind, but we'll see what we can do. So this is the room for the CRM trap for the majority of the day. There is one change when we go into looking at customer service. That's going to be in the room opposite here, just for that one brief session. So what we're going to be talking about in this initial one is around the CRM roadmap. So we're going to be looking at the spring release, which was just gone, and we're going to be able to look at the CRM25 and what's coming in that, and I'll do a bit of a demonstration at the end around CRM2015. So just to introduce ourselves first of all, you may have seen me before if you're doing customer presentations or Dynamics Day. My name's Stephen Foster, known in the office as Fozzie, Twitter account FozzieNZ. I've been doing CRM many years. See myself as a bit of a CRM evangelist. I worked on lots of different CRM products and Dynamics CRM for the last so many years. Recently this year I also made MVP status, which is Most Valued Professional. So both me and Dylan on stage are MVPs for Dynamics CRM, and there's only 64 in the world, so that's a pretty good achievement for Intergen to have two of them. Dylan really is pretty much a CRM technical god, I like to call him. He's my go-to person. If I have any technical question, I can ask Dylan and he invariably will know the answer for me. How long have you been MVP now, Dylan?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So Dylan's been MVP for 5 years, and he also co-authored a book recently, the
CRM2013 Quick Start.
Yeah, so with a few of MVPs around the world, so pretty good one for Dylan. Okay. Going straight into it. So what I'm going to cover off is, as I always do, our sort of a year since the last Dynamics Day, and then talk a bit about the roadmap, and then 2013 and 2015. Okay, so it's been a pretty busy year as always for Intergen. This slide now, actually, I should have changed it since the announcement on Monday. We haven't really added 5 new consultants. We probably added another 50 consultants if we combine the eSavvy and the OBS teams from Australia. So they really bolstered up the Dynamics CRM team now to be about probably 80 or 90 people across the region. We've added about 30 new customers, CRM customers, during the year since the last Dynamics Day. And I actually added up that we'd done for our CRM system, that we've done 130 plus CRM project engagements over the year, varying different sizes, some diagnostics or health checks through to full implementations and upgrades. And for some, across 79 customers, so for some customers doing multiple engagements. Largest deployment since last Dynamics Day was a 300-seat deployment on premise. We've got, as I mentioned before, a couple of CRM MVPs, and with the acquisition by Empire, we've got another one, Guy Riddle, now, who works out of Australia as well. So that makes us 3 CRM MVPs. The top industries that we generally work in, or it seems to be working, is professional services, education, retail, financial. We're doing quite a lot of work in the education space at the moment. Which is interesting, which is really quite an interesting space to be with CRM and marketing combined. When we look at CRM Online, it was an interesting stat that Microsoft had in the keynote that it says about 2 out of 3 customers are now going CRM Online versus any other form. I think we see slightly different here in New Zealand and Australia, and we're probably seeing that everyone's talking about online and considering online. We're probably seeing, I'd say, probably more of a 40-60% split of people going, it's probably slightly of a 1 out of 3 maybe going with cloud versus going with on-premise. But certainly seeing that change, a lot more customers are considering cloud now, and I think once some of the data centers open up in Australia, that's really going to open the door up even more for CRM Line for this region. Within the last sort of 6 months, we started partnering with Resco Mobile, which is a mobility add-on for Dynamics CRM, as well as some of the other ones we do. And I'll be sort of talking a bit about that in the sales productivity session later. From a Click Dimensions perspective, we saw so Click Dimensions is a marketing add-on for Dynamics CRM, and we were named top 5 partners globally for Click Dimensions, which is a pretty big achievement for a little company in New Zealand to achieve that with a global company like Click Dimensions. And we continue to do lots of work with the Microsoft team over in Seattle office, and Dylan's been working quite a bit on some of the projects from Seattle, which were mentioned actually in the keynote. Okay, that's enough of what we've been doing. What everyone's come here to see is really understand a bit about the roadmap. So if you've been listening to the keynote, you would know this answer. You know, how many CRM releases there will be in 2014? Anyone got an idea? Did anyone listen to the keynotes? How many there were? 8? Yeah, so it's actually 8. So there's been 8 releases of Dynamics CRM this quarter, including the one coming up for CRM2015, which is quite astounding compared to 2 years ago. You would have seen 1 release every 2 years. So to go from 1 release every 2 years to 8 releases of components of the Dynamics CRM product is pretty staggering. And pretty staggering for any organization which works with Dynamics CRM to actually stay on top of all those different releases and the functionality which is coming. So if we look at those, we just had the spring release, so that came in around June, July timeframe, and included introduction of dynamic marketing for CRM, which is a standalone Dynamics marketing tool built off Marketing Pilot, which integrates with Dynamics CRM. The first release of Microsoft Social Listening, with some integration to CRM Online only, and the Leo release for CRM, which is a major change, updates to the customer service functionality, which we're focusing a little bit in a later session. From a social listening perspective, they did a quick further release of Libra, which you probably would, if none of you are using or seeing it, you probably wouldn't even notice that change come through. And then coming up now in the full release, which is probably around the November, December timeframe, we're looking at again another 4 releases. So this is going to be Vega. So Vega is the major update to Dynamics CRM. I'll talk a bit about that and show some of those features. Hydra, which is turning social listening, Microsoft Social Listening into social engagement. An update to dynamic marketing, and the first release of Parachaw with some integration to Dynamics CRM. So Parachaw is an online chat service, customer service tool, which they acquired at the start of the year. And then next year, again, we'll see exactly the same approach. So in the spring release, we'll see another 4 releases, and then in the end of the year, we'll see another 4. So the whole likelihood you'll see another 8 releases of the CRM product set again next year. I can't go into too much detail of what's going to come with some of those releases at the moment, but just so you're aware, there's quite a roadmap of changes. Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Dylan, who's going to recap the spring wave before going into CRM 2015.
Thanks, Buddy. So for those of you who attended Dynamics Day last year, you would have gotten a sneak peek into some of the things that were coming out of the spring wave, which, as Fozzie said, just hit us about 2 months ago. But so one of the key focus areas was extensions to the core service module within Dynamics CRM. And so Bruce Edwards and myself have a session after lunch on customer service excellence, in which we'll go in depth into a lot of the enhancements that you see under the core service areas here. Some of the other enhancements was expansions to the channels in which you can make use of CRM. So the mobile client, which was made available with the release of CRM 2013, focused predominantly on sales. They extended the experience to support case updates on the mobile client. And then there's a unified service desk framework, which we'll go into a lot more detail in the customer service excellence session this afternoon. Social care is one of the big steps that moved forward in the Leo release. So for those of you who attended Dynamics Day last year, we gave you a sneak peek into what was coming through the acquisition that Microsoft made of a company called NetBreeze. And really what the spring wave was about was aligning that with Microsoft's core strategy and core platform. So they went through an exercise of rebranding, so all the user interfaces for the NetBreeze product were aligned to be common across the Dynamics stack and give you parity between what you see in Dynamics CRM and what you now see in the social listening. And they rebranded it from NetBreeze to Microsoft Social Listening, and then also re-platformed it to make sure that it was using all of the technologies that are within the Microsoft stack, so running now on Windows and SQL Azure, as well as being able to be provisioned through Office 365. So as Fozzie mentioned, the social listening part is an online only offering at this stage, and you can see some of the insights that you can get out of the social listening product. The mobility story, so there was a lot of enhancement in the mobility space. So as I said, with CRM2013, they released the mobile client. With the Spring Wave release, they then added additional languages to support the Far East, so Chinese and Japanese language capability. Extension onto the Android tablet platform. So with the initial release, it supported iPad and Windows Mobile. So the Spring Wave release brought Android capability to it from a tablet perspective as well as keeping up, obviously, with all the latest operating systems and introducing compatibility for both Windows 8.1 and iOS 7. And then the reconfigure is a surprisingly simple feature that it was lacking originally, but that just meant that if you needed to point it to a different environment to switch between test and production or to another instance, with the initial release, you had to actually uninstall the mobile client and reinstall it. So with Spring Wave, you can now just reconfigure it and point it where you need to. From a productivity enhancements perspective, there was a whole lot of innovation and capability around server-side synchronization. So historically, there was a client application called the email router that you would have to use to integrate with your Exchange mail server. The introduction of Exchange Sync came with CRM2013, but only supported an on-premise deployment. So with the Spring release, that server-side synchronization was extended to allow CRM Online to Exchange Online capability, as well as then the introduction of SharePoint server-side sync. So historically, you had to use a Sandbox component that you would install inside SharePoint, but now we support for CRM Online and SharePoint Online a server-side synchronization capability. Additional platform enhancements. So there were a whole lot of process enhancements. So there were enhancements to the workflow engine, allowing you to do more sophisticated grouping of the queries that you run within the workflow environment. Timer controls were a key component for the case management and service level agreements. So being able to monitor and track what your service levels are and whether you're meeting those and see a real-time timer of what's happening with them. You'll see more of that in the customer service session later as well. And then the state model as well was also a customer service enhancement, allowing you to work with different state transitions on your cases, so being able to put things on hold and only going from one state to another state. So from a lifecycle management perspective, so these are a lot of the tools from a deployment and a developer capability. So the export as capability is part of the strategy to allow you to move more seamlessly across these version releases that we're having. So obviously with an increase in cadence in the version releases, it does mean that you need the ability to move more seamlessly. So the export as basically allows you to target a specific release of CRM and strips out any functionality that might be in a newer release that doesn't exist in a previous release. And then the package deployment tool is part of automated deployment capability that's being introduced through the development lifecycle, along with a couple of other enhancements for Visual Studio. One of the big changes to the online environment was that historically it was very difficult to be able to test and make sure that all of your functionality works before you go into production. So they introduced the concept of what's called a sandbox. And basically what the sandbox does is allows you to have another instance of CRM within your environment, or in fact multiple instances. And within that, there's capability to now copy information from any other instance to any of your sandbox instances. So you could take a copy from your prod environment to a dev1 environment and work with information there. And you can both do a full copy and a minimal copy. So there's a difference between the two, where the minimal would just take the structural components from your production environment, whereas the full will actually take data as well. So you can do much better development and testing. And then you could equally copy something from dev1 to dev2, from prod to test. And then there's also the capability to take snapshots, so that you can take a point in time of that particular environment, do some things, and then have the ability to revert from a snapshot. And then you also have the capability to completely reset an instance, so you can reuse it from scratch. Okay, So those are the key features that came within the spring release that we just had. And now Fozzie will take us through what's coming now.
Yeah, so I'm going to start talking through what's coming in the full wave. So this is, we expect November, December. It's going to be called CRM2015. I suppose the naming of CRM2015 doesn't necessarily denote a major change in product. It's really more for CRM sort of on-premise customers. It's a change from 2013 to 2015. If you're an online customer, it's going to be a seamless change from 2013 to the 2015, and then really you're just on CRM Online. So lots and lots and lots of new features coming with CRM 2015. A lot of features which we would have hoped would have come with earlier in the first releases of 2013, and what we tend to find, or what I find with Microsoft, is the first release gets you so far, gives you really nice capability, but you really want it to go to that next level, and you think, if only they just did that. But when we see the second and third releases of those functionalities, suddenly it takes it to the level you expected it to be and wanted it to be, and maybe further in some cases. So I'm just going to touch on a few of these and then go into and demo some of these features. So a really great new feature of CRM 2015 is hierarchies. Hierarchies enable you to graphically view, say, an account hierarchy or a contact hierarchy or a user employee hierarchy, or pretty much any hierarchy on any entity in the system. You can create, as long as it's self-referential. So you can do accounts to accounts, contacts to contacts, but you can't yet do mix. So you can't account hierarchy as well as a contact hierarchy embedded into the one view. Expect that to come in the second release, I reckon, second, third release of the product. Calculated fields. So, this is something which really should have been there since version 3, but never was. So this is the ability to basically create a calculated field. So my example will be, you want to work out forecast revenue. So you take the estimated revenue versus the probability. That gives you a forecast revenue. You can do that all without any code now, all through configuration. Roll-up fields. You can roll up any field in CRM now to a roll-up field. Roll-up fields and calculated fields are stored in the database, which means you can do charts and reports on those stored values. Roll-up fields don't have to be just currency-based fields. They can actually be counting how many appointments are currently open, how many activities are currently open for this particular account, how many contacts exist for this account. So you can start actually presenting information up to a user about what the relationship of other records are to that parent record. Branching business processes. So again, the business process, which brought in with CRM 2013, was a really great start. It was a great linear approach to a business process. If I go from qualify to develop to negotiate to close, it's going to work perfectly for me. But if I have a process which says, if it's of this type, then switch and add another step in or remove a step, suddenly, as a user, I could do that, but I'd have to manually change which business process I was now working with through the UI. With 2015, I can actually put rules in to say, if this field equals this value, then add in another business process step. Or if it doesn't, remove a business process. It really allows me to do flexible branching of my business process, and allows me to really build quite complex business processes now. Global search. So in the mobile client with CRM 2013, there was a feature of global search. That global search feature has been rolled up into the mainstream browser and Outlook user interface. You can do a global search. First stage, it's okay, but at least it's a start with global search. Product attributes. So product really hasn't changed since probably version 3 of the product. And products, you've been able to have simple and bundled products, very, very not basic, but didn't really go too far. You could have a product, basically. And a lot of cases when we started to talk to customers around products, they wanted the ability to really store attributes or information against a product. So in 2015, we now have this capability to define attributes of a product. So an attribute, if we take the accounts of Office 365, Office 365 E3 plan might contain some links, some Exchange, some SharePoint. Each of those might have different attributes or information needs to be captured about the service. That's the information you can now capture. And it also includes versioning of products, families of products, so and defining all the rules, and cross-sell, upsell between products as well. One of the cool things. Hierarchical security. What this feature is, there's already a comprehensive security model in CRM, and I thought, when I saw this first of all, I thought, well, what could that possibly mean? How much more security do we actually need in Dynamics CRM? What this capability actually allows you for is, maybe my security as a manager allows me to see all my team's records, but not edit those team's records with my basic security. With hierarchical security, it allows me to define, if I'm a manager in a hierarchy, I can now also update and manage my team's records within my hierarchy without going beyond what my security might enable me to do, if I want to define security model for my users. Enhanced SLAs. So again, the first release of SLAs was a great starting point. But they didn't really store too much information about the SLA once it got completed. With enhanced SLAs in 2015, we now can have multiple SLAs running on a case, and they can pause and resume. So if you have an SLA which runs and you need to get some more information off the customer, you can pause that SLA, wait for that information to come back, and then resume the SLA. And it's storing the time of the pause and the resume, and you can start working out how, are we generally hitting our SLA or going over it, or how under are we hitting our SLA, and allow you to really manage your SLAs much better. And finally, the mobile client really saw a slight offline capability, allowing you to create records in draft mode. It doesn't allow you to update records, it just allows you to create new records in a draft state, and then as you synchronize, you can upload those new records to the system. So calculated fields, So calculated fields, really just wanted to show this. I'm not going to go in and show you how you actually configure it, but calculated fields is just a different field type. So when you define a field through the normal configuration engine, there will be a new field type. Is it simple? Is it a calculated roll-up or simple? And if you choose calculated, if you're used to using the business rules engine inside of CRM, then you'll be able to go in and just point and click, type ahead, and define your calculated field rules. And these run server-side, so if you're importing data in or loading data, they're going to apply those calculated fields regardless. Roll-up fields work in exactly the same way. So if you know how to do a business rule, you know how to do a calculated field, you're going to know how to do a roll-up field. And you can define a roll-up field to either apply to the hierarchy or not. So you can roll up a roll-up field to different levels of a hierarchy. And again, it's just really using the same type ahead language and sum up estimated revenue, total count of activities, and it's very simple logic. There's no coding required to do any of these. Social listening. So with the 2015 release, there's an update to social listening called Hydra. What we saw in the spring release was, again, a good starting point. It was about social listening. It's all about how do I listen about my brand, how do I listen about my competitors, how do I listen about my marketing activity. But what it didn't really do was focus on the engagement side. So how do I engage with those conversations in an online, in a social way? So Hydra is introducing social engagement. So you'll now have social listening and social engagement. So the ability to track conversations from social into CRM, convert them into customer care cases, and manage tasks around that social engagement. And really, I think the screenshot which just appeared here, being able to do these sort of watch lists on my data and be able to bulk respond to conversations and comments, really becoming a little bit like a Hootsuite inside of CRM. So quite a big improvement around social listening. Just before I go into doing a demonstration, there are changes around supported technologies if you're in an on-premise or hosted space. So with CRM2015 sees Windows Server 2012 supported, SQL Server 2012. You can read all of those. But the key really is around discontinued support. So what discontinued support means is Microsoft is not going to test their products on these versions. Doesn't say it might not necessarily work in these versions. It's just not being tested. So therefore, it's not a fully supported platform. So Windows Server 2008 has gone out. Small Business Server, if you're running Small Business Server still, that's no longer going to be supported. Vista, older versions of Internet Explorer, and older versions of Exchange. Generally, SQL 2014 is not yet on the roadmap for CRM. I've not seen any dates yet around when that's going to be actually supported by Dynamics CRM. So don't go beyond 2012 if you're in the on-premise. Okay, how am I doing? Quite good. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly go in and show you some of those features from a CRM 2015 perspective. Okay, so all looking all good. So first of all, what I'm going to walk through this, so as I said before, CRM 2015 and CRM 2013 look pretty much identical. There's no massive product shift of layout. My navigation is still exactly the same as my navigation in 2013. But what we have seen introducing, which I think is kind of required, really is a global search feature. So here I can come in and do a global search by just typing. Before I click off here, you also got the ability to go straight to Advanced Find as well. So in 2013, to get to Advanced Find, you had to first open up accounts or contacts, and then you had the option to get to Advanced Find. Now you can just do it from wherever you want, which kind of makes sense. So if I search for, say, a venture and hit search, what this is going to do is going to do a search and find all those records where it's found a venture. So it's found my accounts, my contacts, and my leads. Now, this is okay. It only still presents a limited set of fields information back to you. So it's a good start, as I said, on global search, but products like Sonomo, they have a free add-on for universal search, probably still maybe a better feature than this per se, but it's a start for giving some basic global search capability. And I can choose, if there's lots of records, to do individual filters, just to look at accounts or contacts or leads, for example. So that's global search. The next thing I want to show you is hierarchies. So hierarchies are implemented for a view. So wherever there's a parental relationship between records, and I've defined hierarchy to be enabled, I will start to see this little symbol on the view. And this symbol indicates that there's a hierarchy that I can visualize for these accounts. So if I click on the little icon, it's going to take me to the hierarchy view. So in here, I can navigate to it through just a simple tree down here and navigate up the tree, or I can just click through on the records here themselves. I can show up to 4 fields on here, which can include roll-up fields. So I could roll up estimated revenue or number of opportunities or number of activities to those fields. And I can click on the expansion to expand it out. If I just bring up another one, so looking at contacts, again, just click on that view will show me my contract, sort of my tree. Yeah. So this is the first start to hierarchies for Dynamics CRM, and what you can expect to see is this only going to improve over the next coming releases. But it's a pretty good step, I think, and it's something which we all want to see in our CRM product. Where I'm going to move on to now is branching processes. So my branching process, I'm done around a sales opportunity. I go into opportunities, and I'm just going to bring up my bar redesign. Wishing I was at the Alpine Ski House doing a bar redesign. So it's one of the things when you think about a sales process, depending on this branching process can work across any entity, any business process you define in the system, that you might have different stages based on the complexity of the opportunity, the value of the opportunity, whether it's an RFP or RFI might drive different sets of processes that you might do. For example, one which I sort of see is that maybe you want to capture opportunities in the system which are not really due until next year, but you've got just want to create them in the system. So, if you maybe put them in that it's this year, you notice incubation stage has been added into it. So it's added a different step into the process. And it's real time. So if I change this back to saying actually it's going to happen this quarter, the branching disappears. So very simple, very easy to define this. And if I do just go into the edit process on this one, so you can just see, it just simply goes through, and it's like using workflow logic. Again, just type ahead. If the value equals this, then show this process. If not, show another type of process. So again, it's easy for a business analyst, someone who's got understanding of the product, to actually make these changes and define these business processes. So I think that's a really great improvement to the business process functionality, and really will allow us to do quite complex business processes. Next one is around calculated fields. We notice here that our forecast field is a locked field. If I change the probability down to 25% and save the record, we'll notice that my forecast value gets updated. Very simple calculated field based on estimated revenue and my probability. Yeah, and that's all done through configuration now. So if you've got calculated fields with scripting or plugins, and so you can strip that all out now and start using predominantly the standard out-of-the-box feature again. So removing code, making those upgrades really easy. And finally, I'll look at roll-ups. So if I click back onto my account, we'll see some roll-ups down here. So you can see here that I've got 2 open activities. We can tell little roll-up field here. So we've got 1, and we can, if we highlight over, it can tell us when that field's last updated. So with roll-up fields, it's not real time. You define as a system administrator when the roll-ups to occur. So you might have roll-ups occurring at the end of the business day or every so many hours, because obviously the more roll-ups you have and the more complex structures can potentially impact performance if you've got lots and lots of roll-ups defining, all going through and working out their equivalent value. So you run them on a regular basis, a bit like goals. If anyone's using goals currently in CRM, they don't run immediately, you recalculate them, or they run every 24 hours. But really what you see here, we can have numerical counts, we can have currency counts, but we can have pretty much any roll-up on any field which can be counted or summed, which I think is a great feature. And then moving on to sort of product attributes. If I open up an opportunity and scroll down, and if I add a new product and pick small business. So when I add in this product now, we can see that Office 365 is made up of automatically brought through 4 products. Of those, we can see the ticks on so many of the attributes, but on this CRM line 1, it's shown an X, which means I need to complete information or attributes on that particular product. So clicking the edit will bring up the properties of that particular product. So I can say, well, what's the organization name? Alpine. That's the only required field done. And we'll see that now ticked up. Once I save. Oh, it's a beta version. We'll see the, did I not save that? Yeah, there we go. I must have obviously not hit done, must have hit cancel. We see that it's now ticked to show me that I've correctly configured my product. And if I can look in the other attributes by just clicking, you see that there's different attributes based on the different types of products associated with the overall product, and the price can roll up. So that's really all I wanted to sort of talk through and show from a CRM 2015. I will be talking about Microsoft Social Listening in my sales productivity session, and we'll touch in more on customer service and the service ones. We didn't want to repeat ourselves throughout, but hopefully what you can see there from the 2015 is I think there's some really great enhancements around the calculated fields, around, let me just go back in, around the roll-up fields, the calculate fields, the branching business processes really give us great breadth now to really build up quite complex processes across our system. One thing I didn't mention about branching process was the ability to go up and down the branching multiple times. One of the things you couldn't do in 2013 was if you had an opportunity and you went qualify, develop, quote, order, and you want to go back up to a couple more stages in opportunity, you couldn't. You had to go to the last stage in the opportunity to close it. With the new branching process, that means I can go to qualify, develop, quote, back up to an opportunity process step, then back into my quote, then back up to an opportunity process and continue. So I've got much more flexibility in how I define those. Okay, so I wanted that to pretty much end at that and really open up for any questions people might have or around either the spring release or the 2015 release. Anything I haven't said or you want to hear about, happy to take any questions. No, it's just so if you're in CRM online, just like the spring release, you went to install product updates. If you're on premise, and are you in CRM 2013 at the moment? Yeah. So it's a matter of just applying the update to that pack. There are some things to be aware of, which from a technical perspective, if you're still using, in 2011, there was a form type called information form type, which when you upgraded to CRM 2013, you could still keep your old CRM 2011 information styled form, which was really only really 2 major columns, didn't take on the responsive design and the 3-column layout of 2013. That information form is no longer going to be supported in CRM 2015, which means you have to take those 2011 forms and migrate them to a 2013 look and feel form. If people don't know what that sort of means, that's really, if I just go scroll up, this is a 2013 form where we have the post activities notes sort of pieces in the middle, 3-column main layout. If I minimize the screen, then it automatically resizes the screen based on my layout. Yeah. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Yep. There's no changes to the charts or dashboards or the Excel, but there is the introduction of using Power BI and some pre-built sort of Power BI for Dynamics CRM. So if you're in the online world and you go down that sales productivity pack approach, you've got Office 365, CRM Online, and Power BI, so you can surface up your CRM data into the Power BI component real time. Any other? Can't read that, but yeah. Any other questions? No. Oh, yep.
That list of supported software.
Yep.
Do you support iOS?
Yeah. So iOS is supported from a mobility perspective. Yeah. So iOS 8. Yeah. Yeah. ISO 8 is supported. Yeah. With the new version of the mobile, but not the Outlook for iOS. That's not supported. So you're just really running the mobile app or running the browser client.
So you've got to run Parallels or something like that to run it on a Mac machine.
If you're running either an iPad or a Mac machine, then you can access Dynamics CRM through the browser or through the native app with full functionality.
So I mean, browser support is pretty much ubiquitous. So Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer. I mean, so that's been there since the beginning of 2013, really. Well, just a bit before then. So if it's purely browser, then you can access it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
The offline capability that's coming into mobile, is that available for all platforms, or is that specific just to one?
No, it's available for all platforms.
Yeah, so Android, iOS, and the Windows 8.
Yeah.
But it's specific to the mobile application on those.
And a real key thing there is it's offline, but it's offline to create new records. It's not offline to update existing. So limited scenarios, I would believe, for that. So if you go out and you see a new customer with a scheduled appointment, you lose your connectivity. You could create an opportunity against them, but you couldn't update the existing opportunity you might have gone out there to talk to them about if you're in an offline mode.
Is there any plan from Microsoft to make social listening available for
Yeah, so that's a good point, actually. I should have mentioned that. So for CRM 2015, you'll be able to connect Microsoft Social Listening to your on-premise environment as well. So that's supported. So you'll still provision it through Office 365, but you can connect it to an on-premise installation of CRM. You need to you subscribe to it. You don't need necessarily Office 365 as the full product exchange online. It's just the medium of buying the product is the Office 365 environment. Okay. Anything else? If not, we pretty much to what we wanted to show, part of the roadmap. So in the customer service session a little bit later today, we'll be covering quite in a lot of detail case management and unified service desk type features. A unified service desk was a great enhancement for Dynamics around building a customer care framework. So being able to contextually switch between applications in a customer care scenario, but equally could be seen to be used in a sales scenario as well. And Dylan will be going through the unified service desk and all the customer care features in that session. In a sales productivity session, which I'll be running, I will be touching on things like inside view, mobility, and Microsoft Social Listening as well. If people haven't seen that, I'll be showing that in that session around how that can be used to increase productivity from a sales perspective. Okay, well, we're pretty much back to reasonably on time. So I think we have about a five-minute break. What? Yeah, well, okay. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So the next session to be running here will be customer stories. So we've got one from Beef and Lamb, looking how they're using CRM, and also from Lumino the Dentist, and how they're using click dimensions and Dynamics CRM to deliver some of their customer scenarios. Okay, thank you.